Imagine being in a crowded room where laughter, conversations, and handshakes echo from every corner, yet one little girl sits alone, silent, and invisible to everyone around her. Now pause for a second, because what happens when one stranger notices what no one else does will change the course of many lives forever. And if you're new here, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel so you never miss stories that touch the heart and open the eyes. The story begins at a dazzling charity gala hosted in one of the city's most luxurious hotels, where billionaires, politicians, and celebrities all gathered under crystal chandeliers that scattered light like diamonds across the marble floor, and while servers in black uniforms carried trays of sparkling drinks and gourmet appetizers, everyone's attention seemed fixed on networking, business deals, and showing off their wealth. At the center of the room stood Alexander Royce, one of the richest men in the country, a widower known for his intimidating presence, sharp jawline, and eyes that could command silence in any boardroom. Yet beside him, unnoticed by nearly everyone, was his daughter, Amelia, just 8 years old, with long brown hair tied neatly with a ribbon and wide hazel eyes that carried both intelligence and loneliness. Amelia was deaf, something that had become a silent wall between her and the world, and though her father loved her dearly, his world of constant business and guarded reputation often meant she was surrounded by people who didn't know how, or didn't bother, to connect with her. All evening, Amelia tugged at her father's sleeve, her small fingers forming signs to ask if she could play, if she could walk around, or if she could just go somewhere quieter, but Alexander, juggling conversations with investors, kept patting her hand absently and gesturing for her to wait. Around them, the wealthy and influential smiled politely at Amelia but quickly looked away, their greeting stopping at a quick nod or a forced pat on her head, as if her silence made her untouchable. A group of children, dressed in their finest, were playing tag near the corner, yet when Amelia approached, signing, "Can I join?" with hopeful eyes, the children only looked confused before turning their backs, whispering and giggling as though she didn't exist. No one tried to understand her, no one slowed down enough to see the spark in her eyes, and she shrank back, holding her hands tightly to her chest, fighting tears in a room full of people who acted like she wasn't even there. That's when Sophia entered the scene. She wasn't rich, she wasn't dressed in designer clothes, and she wasn't even supposed to be noticed at such an extravagant event. Sophia worked as a server for the catering company, her dark hair tied back neatly, her uniform simple, her eyes observant. At 24, she had learned to survive by working double shifts and picking up any job that paid enough to cover her rent and her younger brother's school fees. Yet beneath her quiet demeanor, she carried a gift not many knew about, her fluency in sign language. Her best friend growing up had been deaf, and learning to communicate with her had opened Sophia's heart to a world of expression beyond spoken words. As she moved through the crowd with a tray of glasses, her gaze fell on Amelia, sitting alone at the edge of a table, fiddling with the ribbon on her dress, her eyes scanning the room full of people who didn't seem to notice her pain. Sophia felt something stir in her chest. She walked over, knelt slightly so her eyes met Amelia's, and gently signed, "Are you okay?" The transformation in Amelia's face was instant. Her eyes widened in disbelief, her mouth parted in a small gasp, and then joy spread across her features as if someone had just switched on the lights inside her soul. "You can sign?" Amelia asked, her hands trembling with excitement. Sophia smiled warmly and replied, "Yes, I can. Would you like to talk?" In that moment, the loneliness that had been pressing down on Amelia lifted, and she began signing rapidly, telling Sophia how bored she was, how no one ever understood her, how she wished people would see her for who she was instead of someone broken. Sophia listened with patience, responding with gentle signs, nodding, laughing softly at Amelia's jokes, and for the first time that night, Amelia's laughter filled her own silent world. Across the room, Alexander noticed. His sharp eyes narrowed as he watched the exchange from afar. He had seen countless nannies, teachers, and professionals attempt to connect with his daughter, most failing or treating her with pity, but here was a young woman in a server's uniform making Amelia's entire face glow. Something about the sight unsettled him, part surprise, part relief, and part confusion. Who was this woman, and why did his daughter seem to trust her so instantly? As the gala continued, Alexander found his attention divided, unable to focus entirely on the deals being proposed to him. His daughter, who had been a silent shadow all evening, was now animated, alive, engaged, and the cause was not a billionaire, not a high-society tutor, but an ordinary server who had chosen to see her. But little did Sophia know, this simple act of kindness, kneeling down to speak to a lonely girl in sign language, would not only capture Amelia's heart but also test Alexander in ways he had never imagined. Because when a billionaire who has built walls around his life realizes those walls can't protect the person he loves most, the world begins to shift. And what happens next will leave you holding your breath. The moment Sophia signed the words, "You are amazing just the way you are," Amelia threw her arms around her neck, hugging her tightly, and it was then that Alexander finally walked over, his towering presence casting a shadow across them both. The room seemed to pause, whispers rippling as the billionaire himself stepped away from his circle of power and came to a stop before a young server and his daughter. Sophia felt her heart pound as she slowly stood, still holding Amelia's hand, unsure if she had crossed a line or if she was about to be scolded for overstepping. Alexander's eyes were unreadable, his expression stern, but his daughter's glowing smile spoke louder than any words could. "She understands me, Daddy," Amelia signed eagerly, tugging at his sleeve. "She talks to me." Alexander's gaze softened for just a second, but his voice was firm. "What's your name?" he asked Sophia. "Sophia, sir," she replied, trying to steady her voice. "And you know sign language?" "Yes," she said simply, "I learned because someone I loved needed me to." For a long moment, Alexander studied her, then gave a small nod. "Stay with her tonight," he said, and with that, he turned and walked back into the crowd. For the rest of the gala, Sophia stayed by Amelia's side, translating when she wanted to know what people were saying, playing hand games with her, even teaching her a new sign for hope. Amelia was radiant, no longer the quiet girl ignored by the world but a child filled with laughter and confidence. People began to notice, whispering among themselves about the billionaire's daughter and the mysterious young woman who had unlocked her voice. Some looked curious, some envious, some dismissive, but none could deny the truth. Sophia had done in minutes what money and power had failed to do for years. She had made Amelia feel seen. When the night ended and the guests drifted out under the glow of the city lights, Alexander approached Sophia again. His voice was quieter this time, stripped of the steel that usually guarded him. "You made her smile tonight," he said, almost as if admitting defeat to something greater than himself. Sophia smiled softly. She just needed someone to listen. Alexander's jaw tightened. "I've tried everything. Specialists, teachers, even expensive therapists. None of them reached her like you did." "Why?" Sophia hesitated, then answered honestly. "Because I didn't see her as a project. I saw her as Amelia." Those words struck him like a blow he hadn't expected, peeling back layers of pride he had hidden behind for years. He realized he had given his daughter everything money could buy, except the one thing she craved most: connection. Days turned into weeks, and Alexander asked Sophia to spend more time with Amelia, first as a helper, then as a companion, and slowly, she became a part of their world. Every afternoon, Sophia and Amelia sat in the garden signing stories, jokes, and secrets. Amelia's confidence grew, her laughter echoing in ways Alexander had never heard before, and for the first time, he began to feel that he was not alone in carrying the weight of raising her. Yet the more Sophia touched their lives, the more Alexander found himself drawn to her, not just for what she gave his daughter but for her strength, her compassion, her quiet defiance of a world obsessed with wealth. But with every step forward came resistance. Members of Alexander's circle whispered that she was only after his money, that a server had no place in a billionaire's home, and even Alexander's pride battled with the fear of letting someone so different into his carefully controlled world. One evening, after a long business meeting, he found Sophia sitting with Amelia by the fireplace, teaching her to sign a song. Amelia's hands moved gracefully, her face glowing with pride, and Alexander felt his throat tighten. When Sophia looked up and caught his gaze, something unspoken passed between them, gratitude, admiration, and something far deeper. He realized then that wealth and walls had never protected him from loneliness, and perhaps, just perhaps, this woman was the key not only to his daughter's happiness but also to his own. Yet the question remained, would he allow his fear of judgment to silence this unexpected bond, or would he risk everything to hold on to the woman who gave his daughter back her voice? One thing was certain, Sophia's choice to kneel that night and sign a simple, "Are you okay?" had set into motion a story that would rewrite their lives forever. And if you believe that sometimes the smallest gestures can spark the greatest changes, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel, because more stories like this are waiting to remind us that kindness, when spoken in the right language, can move mountains and melt even the hardest of hearts.